Hi guys, this is gsn.com and I'm here with ASUS ZenFone 3 Deluxe. We already reviewed two versions of the ASUS ZenFone 3 and now it's time for the big shot, the 5.7 incher made of metal and with ultra high-end specs. Deluxe is a premium phone both in design and in specifications, and it was launched in August this year. It's priced at around $800 right now, so you're paying quite a bit for some high-end specs. We have the ZS570KL version with 256GB of storage, and it's the first Snapdragon 821 device we test. In the meantime, we got one more, but more about that later. So the design involves a metal chassis that's only slightly rounded here, and it's even better looking than the already good looking ZenFone 3. We don't have antenna lines, which ASUS claims is a premiere, the first metal body phone without visible antenna lines, and that's quite impressive. The whole process of making this phone involves 240 steps, and we got the special concentric circle of reflection here and here, typical for a Zen device. There are 1.3mm slim bezels here and a screen to body ratio of 79%. The versions of color available are Glacier Silver and Sand Gold, and the phone measures between 4.2 and 7.5mm in thickness and weighs 172 grams, both reasonable features for a 5.7 incher. It's 0.1mm slimmer than the LG V20 and also 2 grams lighter, basically about the same size. In the meantime, I should also mention that this one is 3mm shorter than the Nexus 6P, which was also a 5.7 incher if I remember correctly. The fit in the hand is perfect. On paper it should be a big phone. In reality you can use it with a single hand perfectly, and it has a very solid build. Also good button feedback on this side here. My only objection is that the capacitive buttons are placed too low and are not aesthetically pleasing. Otherwise, excellent design. Now it's time to discuss the display. We're dealing with a 5.7 inch Full HD unit with a Super AMOLED this time, and we also get Gorilla Glass 4 protection. Now the actual screen experience comes using the gallery. We do not have a dedicated video player, so we have to resort to the gallery. So here we go. Now, as far as the actual viewing experience goes, what we're dealing with here is that the colors really pop out, typical for an AMOLED. The brightness is solid, contrast is good, the blacks are deep, and the wide viewing angles are also present. Now, let's see what we're dealing with in the other aspects of the screen test. So, we are dealing with here with a pretty solid display. Let's see exactly just how solid this is. So what we're dealing with here is a pixel setup of the Pentel matrix kind, and as far as the brightness test goes, we achieve 451 lux units, which is quite solid, but it's not uniform, so we also achieve these values in various areas of the screen. So 428 and 417, the biggest one is the one that matters, and with this result we surpassed the Huawei P9 Lite and the iPhone 7 Plus, scored below the OnePlus 2 and HTC 10, and we were the equal of the Galaxy S7. Now it's time to check out the settings dedicated to the display. We got brightness level, font style and size, wallpaper, sleep, auto rotate and screen color mode with color temperature, blue light filter, super color, and customized hue and saturation. There's also something new here. It's called always on panel. You can keep the screen always on like on the Samsung devices and show your panels here. So you can basically show the time and the date and even personalize the background a bit. Okay, so that's all about display. We're pretty happy with it. It's a solid screen, and now it's time to move on to other aspects, like for example the CPU. We're dealing here with a powerful Qualcomm Snapdragon 821 chipset, 14nm chipset, clocked at up to 2.4 GHz. It has a Adreno 530 GPU, up to 6 GB of RAM, or better said 6 GB of DDR4 RAM, and keep in mind we have the 5.7 inch version. The 5.5 inch version of the phone has only 4 GB of RAM. Storage goes up to 256 GB plus micro SD, so that's impressive. And of course we don't have any trace of lag. You can open up numerous apps, you'll have no problem entering any of the apps you can dream of with absolutely no lag and opening them instantly. Even the setup and reset were very fast. Of course, we also have some gaming here, including our usual Riptide GP Renegade test, and we played the very intensive Mobius Final Fantasy that certainly draws more resources than the Riptide title you're seeing here. Okay, so quick race, we pick this track, and here we go. This is basically a gaming phone because it has hardcore specs, best Snapdragon CPU on the market, excellent screen, good speakers, a lot of RAM, and also good battery, so everything a gamer could desire. Very responsive controls, excellent looking water, and we're having a blast. It's interesting to see how the animation is moving here compared to other handsets. Excellent frame rate, lighting, and etc. So gaming checks out. Now let's see if the benchmarks also check out. So we go to the screenshots and we have a gander at some of the tests we did. This is Antutu 6. In Antutu 6, for example, we scored on the fault spot below the iPhone 7 unit and only 1K points below the OnePlus 3. We're quite close to it, and we surpassed the Google Pixel XL, which is no small feat. Now we also did the 3D Mark benchmark, and let's find that one. It's supposed to be very relevant for gamers. 3D Mark iStorm Unlimited. Here we scored the third spot all time, only 3000 points below the iPhone 7, which is quite an achievement. And among all the Android models, this one scored pretty high. It obtained a lot of first places in many of the tests or sub-tests. Does that come with temperature sacrifice? Let's see. So after playing the game Riptide GP Renegade, we scored 35 degrees Celsius, so there's no overheating. Good news. And after the intensive benchmarks, GFX bench 34.9 degrees Celsius, so no overheating in the end, and very good performance. Now, as far as the battery is concerned, we have a 3000 mAh unit that's supposed to offer quick charge 3.0. The same capacity was present on the predecessor, the ZenFone 2 Deluxe. And now let's see how our tests quantified the performance of the battery. So here we go. We're looking for the HD video playback time. We achieved a time of 10 hours and 40 minutes, which is quite solid. We can watch one season of a Netflix show, for example. It surpasses the LG G5 and Huawei Mate 8, but scored below the Galaxy S5 and Galaxy Note 5. So impressive, but no record breaker. Now in PC Mark, we scored a pretty underwhelming 6 hours and 40 minutes. I expected more. It beats the OnePlus 2 and the ZenFone 2 Deluxe, which was 5 hours and 36 minutes, but it's below the Google Pixel XL by 4 hours and the ZenFone 3 below it. That one had 9 hours and 46 minutes, this one considerably lower by 3 hours. At least the charging is rather solid, 1 hour and 24 minutes. It's great, it's actually the 10th spot from all of our tests, and it surpasses the Galaxy Note 5 and S7 Edge as far as the quick charging goes. And now let's see the settings associated to the battery. Those of you who've played with an ASUS phone before will feel right at home here. So we got the power saver feature with the following modes: performance, normal, power saving, super saving, and customized, where you can tweak the CPU, brightness, and network usage. Those ones will tweak also the performance by the CPU, brightness, and networks disabled here. And finally, you can only keep the basic features in that mode. It's a mixed battery with excellent charging, a reasonable video playback, and a bit underwhelming continuous usage. Now the speaker, we have a pretty small way to output the sound through these 4 holes here. Quite easy to cover up when you're gaming and you keep your fingers like that. You may keep your fingers like that, but eventually you may cover them. We get a 5-magnet speaker, and it supports Sonic Master 3.0 technology, high resolution audio, 4x CD quality, and we have to resort to very own Google's Play Music app. And instead of the usual settings and options, we get to play with ASUS Audio Wizard with modes like movie, gaming, music, outdoor, smart, and vocal, as well as volume-based treble dialogue tweaks and a 5-channel equalizer. Now let's put the music to the test and give it a listen. Okay, so conclusions, we got a loud sound, actually very loud sometimes, it's clear and crisp, and we got a great bass and voice as well as high notes, but the outdoor mode tends to distort the experience a bit. Now let's see what our decibel meter has shown. We achieved a value of 85.4 decibels, which is achieved with our typical audio sample test, quite solid, but it gets even crazier with Riptide GP Renegade or Movies, 97.2 decibels, one of the highest values ever. It's actually the highest value we ever measured on a smartphone here at gsm.com, so this is first place. The previous champions had 95 decibels, so that's impressive. Now, the bundled headphones look like this. The box may remind you a bit of the one of the Apple AirPods or the latest Samsung headphones. That's the body of the headphone. You can see here it's remote, and I have to say this Zen earpiece comes with a high resolution support, great bass, great voice. They're very comfy and offer good isolation, but I have to say they could be only a bit louder. Now let's see what else we have here in the acoustic department. Just so you know, we also have FM radio. Now that we're done with the acoustics, it's time to discuss the camera. So at the back of the phone, there's a 23 megapixel camera with laser focus here, face detection autofocus, continuous autofocus, 4-axis stabilization, optical stabilization, dual tone flash, 6-element lens, so goodies all around. So 23 megapixels here and 8 megapixels here for the selfie. And now let's have a quick glance at the camera app. Opens up pretty fast. And when it comes to actual picture taking, not the fastest in the world, but a reasonable speed, fluid zooming, and reasonable focus change. So there's that. Now the options are very familiar if you've seen our reviews of the ASUS ZenFone 3. A typical abundance of modes: manual, HDR, Pro, beautification, super resolution, children, low light, QR code, night, depth of field, effect, selfie, GIF, panorama, miniature, time rewind, smart remove, all smiles, slow motion, and time lapse. Of course, we also have settings ready to white balance, ISO, exposure, resolution, and many more. Video is done in up to 4K or Full HD 60 frames per second, and this is the manual mode with a few extra options and a histogram and white balance, exposure, ISO, shutter, and the focus. So that's that. It's time to analyze the gallery of shots we've taken during the day, indoors and at night with this camera. As you can well see, we have over 300 shots and we're proud of that. So we start off indoors. It just so happens that I used the ZenFone 3 models before at events. ZenFone 3 Deluxe also used at events. My conclusion, we did score some blurred shots every once in a while because the subjects were moving, but in the end we were happy with the quality, especially with the details here. So we got this phone in action and you can see all of its details with the Hasselblad module on the Moto Z. All the colors are pretty well calibrated and all the images are clear. It was a pretty shady room, actually a dark room, but the phone faced it pretty well. It cannot face moving subjects because they appear blurred and you have to be patient to focus. In the end, I'm happy with the lighting, colors, pretty nice close-ups, and it feels slightly below the ASUS ZenFone 3 that totally delivered at events and it did not have as many blurred shots. Now let's see if we step outside in natural light. Let's see those samples. So here we go, finally, a lot of details. It's a 23 megapixel camera after all. Of course it catches more pixels than a 12 megapixel shooter. Nice clarity, but if you really look at the shots, they remind me of the older era Samsung phones that everything was too perfect on those. So it feels a bit artificial, colors are too perfect, the clarity is too good, so there's some over sharpening going on here. We got some HDR action here. And HDR works pretty fine, it eliminates any sort of strange feeling dynamic range. Attempt at a selfie, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with the texture of the face and of the hair. Also the background looks nice. No, this is the HDR I mentioned before, so regular shot and HDR shot making everything appear better. Colors look artificial, this red did not look that bright in real life. And once again, excellent details, okay lighting and clarity, nice texture of basically everything. Some dynamic range problems every once in a while, but images are pretty crisp. Now if we go into the distance and play with the zoom some more, let's see what happens. So this is the hotel, regular distance, we start to zoom in and more and more, and that's impressive because we did not lose details. It makes it feel like a paparazzi phone. We also did the panorama at some point, which I have to find, and it's this one here. Pretty modest resolution, 9600 over 992 pixels. It's quite okay, only okay, and the clarity is good, although strange dynamic range here, not very curved and quite clear. Aside from the over sharpening and dynamic range problems, I would say it's a pretty solid camera when it comes to daytime capture, and we even scored some close-ups, although keep in mind you really have to focus and be patient to achieve that, because it takes a while to focus properly. It reminds me a lot of the results of the Lenovo Vibe X3, which was a pretty solid phone, and it's very good, sometimes even too good with that artificial vibe, and sometimes it feels below the ZenFone 3 only a bit. That one had more natural colors. Now when it comes to the low light capture, we registered pretty good clarity and lighting, and the light halos were reasonably sized. The ZenFone 2 Deluxe created some nasty line effects, no longer the case here. However, we did meet with some violet hues and blue hues in some areas of the image, like on the Xperia XZ, and the flash felt too powerful at times. Of course, moved shots every once in a while, you have to be patient to focus, that's the key here. I'm happy with the details again, the colors and the lighting, but somehow the flash kind of spoils the image with its great power. Strange colors every once in a while. In the end, it's clearly above the predecessor by quite a bit. This is quite a stunning shot, I have to say. The shot of a church with great details. And while it surpasses the ZenFone 2 Deluxe, it scores below the latest iPhones and below the Galaxy S7, although it can hold its own if you're patient to focus and you're in ideal outdoors nighttime lighting conditions. So overall below the big flagships this year, but above the predecessor and fighting the ZenFone 3 on equal terms. When it comes to the filming, we filmed a lot, so let's see what we're dealing with here. I'm going to start with a indoor video, provided I can find it. So let's start to look it up. Here we go. Okay, so this was an event, and this video had a good microphone, you can really hear that. Great voice, excellent bass, good clarity, nice lighting. It's a bit dark, but the exposure was okay. Having used the ZenFone 3 at events, I would have to say they're equal, the ZenFone 3 and the ZenFone 3 Deluxe, and clarity was rather good. When zooming in, there's a bit of detail loss, and the color calibration is a bit weird. Now we step outside and see how the camera handles the outside world. So, video number 1 outdoors. A bit strange dynamic range here, some colors feel a bit off, good clarity and nice details and nice exposure change. Okay, so that was one of the clips. Now we also have a 4K video that of course looks amazing thanks to all of the details, the clarity and all that. And then we did an optical image stabilization test. We descended a set of stairs and we're actually surprised to see the optical image stabilization being quite good, in spite of being on paper the same system as on the ZenFone 3. The ZenFone 3 stabilization offered us some flicker and some focus loss, no longer the case here, stabilization is quite good. So, filming is on par with the ZenFone 3 or even above it, and it surpasses it on optical image stabilization. It also surpasses the iPhone 7 Plus stabilization, but scores below them when it comes to the colors. It films like a Samsung Galaxy A 2016 phone, and maybe a bit above it, but below the Google Pixel XL. Low light video capture was a bit of a bummer, because, well, you can see here, because we filmed in 12 frames per second, don't ask me why, we just did, and we got a violet hue, the image is very shaky, everything feels a bit yellowish, and it's below most rivals sadly, with a lot of ghosting happening. Now that the camera is done, time to go to other aspects, like for example the web browser. We got Chrome here, and let's load up gsmdom.com. So it's a fast browser with pretty good benchmarks. The benchmarks like SunSpider are still below the Safari and Edge experience. Got a virtual keyboard with numeric row, swipe, and big and comfy buttons. On the connectivity front, one thing to remember, this one is the first metal phone without visible antennas. We got a dual microphone system, FM radio, VoLTE, Wi-Fi A, B, G and AC, Bluetooth 4.2, Wi-Fi Direct, NFC, GPS and GLONASS, and dual SIM setup. First card is a micro SIM and the second a nano SIM, also used to store a micro SD. Of course, there's 4G LTE here as well. There's USB Type-C port at the bottom, and as far as the calls are concerned, as usual you get a ton of options. I would say too many. You have call recording, call block, speed dial, etc. and the calls are loud and clear with perfect noise cancelling. We also did a speed test to see how that checks out. And surprise surprise, huge results. In the Wi-Fi area, 442 Mbps download, that's huge, and 25 in upload, so good results. And in the 4G area, 87 Mbps download, 47 upload, so once again rather solid. When it comes to the software, we're running on Marshmallow with the Zen UI 3.0 on top, and everything we said at the ZenFone 3 applies on the ZenFone 3 Deluxe. Multitasking involves a carousel, and we also have a screen pinning. Drop-down section includes the notifications and quick settings. A swipe down in the home screen includes a search area with trending searches, and keeping the screen pressed triggers a ton of options like widgets, home edit, theme, icon packs, preferences, and here yet another set of options: icon size, alignment, scroll, font, label, and many more. The settings themselves are also complex. Connectivity, display, always on panel, do not disturb, ASUS cover, Zen motion, which gestures, drawing letters on the screen, motion gestures like flipping, and one hand mode so you can simulate a smaller diagonal. We got memory here and a function called OptiFlex, which actually makes the functioning of the device better. It's a smart tool that enhances the app's launch performance. More options here like glove mode, lock screen, kids mode, easy mode, and finally we get to the fingerprint scanner. It's placed at the back, looks like on the ZenFone 3, and can also be used to answer calls, launch the camera, or capture a photo. Now, in order to properly secure this print, we have to use a pin and set up the print at the back. Place and lift, about 16 or 15 steps should do it. So on paper we are promised 360-degree recognition. In real life it's not exactly that much, and the first authentication has to be done with a pin, and then you can start using it. Come on. So I'm guessing I actually forgot to set up the option to unlock the screen via fingerprint scanner. Okay, so unlock device, and it's only now that the test begins. Okay, so that was reasonably fast, not the fastest in the world. And let's see it at 90 degrees. And let's see it at 180 degrees, which would be a bit harder. And as you can see, it worked a bit harder than before, but it worked, so it's rather accurate. Now, when it comes to the pre-installed apps, as usual for a ZenFone, we have a ton of applications. I counted 51 of them, and the good news here is that you can actually uninstall. This one, for example, you can uninstall. It's a good old Kindle, and you can also take the calculator and disable it, so you can disable or uninstall many apps. Of course, there's no problem with the space, we have a ton of space. Among the apps to remember, we got Instagram, Laser Ruler, Kindle, there's a mini movie, Mobile Manager, which makes the functioning better and scans everything and boosts everything. There's Puffin, Quick Memo, ShareLink, Teams, TripAdvisor, and web storage from ASUS. Now it's the end of the review, and let's see if the ASUS ZenFone 3 Deluxe is worth your time and money. So on the Pro side, a premium build. It's the best built ZenFone so far. It has the innovative antenna design that makes the antennas invisible. Perfect hardware inside, you cannot get better hardware right now. And we get a very loud speaker, good display, nice optical image stabilization, okay indoor shots, huge Wi-Fi downloads, good battery for the video playback, and good charging, also great performance. Those are the pluses. Now on the minus side, loads of apps installed, the overall camera feels surprisingly below the one of the ZenFone 3. Low light capture and especially the video felt rather poor, and the PCMAR continuous usage was a bit of a letdown. The speaker is easy to cover, and also I have to say that sometimes Zen UI feels like it hasn't changed in a long time. So Zen UI is staying the same for about 2 or 3 years and needs a change. So those are the minuses. Now the conclusion is that the ZenFone 3 Deluxe is truly a luxurious phone. The predecessor was clearly a gaming phone, was supposed to be sold under the ASUS ROG laptop brand. Well, this one is a beautiful phone, a high-end phone, not only a gaming phone. Of course, it doubles as a gaming phone with high-end performance, the best CPU on the market, excellent screen, and superb acoustics. So if you want a phone with great acoustics, hardware, display, charging, and optical image stabilization, this is the one for you. And it's possibly the best looking ASUS phone with the best looking antenna in the world, because you cannot see them. This is it from gsn.com. This has been the review of the ASUS ZenFone 3 Deluxe. Bye bye.